So sorry, my video got cut while I was talking. So the first half of this chapter I've saved as part one video, and this is going to be part two. So I'm going to start from where the first video ended and continue. So please don't forget to watch this video once you finished watching the first one. All right, so let me do the screen share again. Hopefully this time it does not cut me off in the middle. If it does, I guess third time's the charm. So let's do this, and here. I think you can all see it. Let me try walking through it so I can see if it's working as well. Bear with me just a minute because I want to make sure that the video is working perfectly fine. Yep, it is. All right, so let me talk through what these are and what this is. Sorry again. So I talked about the utilitarian approach. That's where the video ended, previous video part one. So let's talk about the individual approach. Individual approach is when whoever the ethical dilemma makes a decision and the individual, to make a utilitarian decision, the individual would say, well, you know, I might have to sacrifice these people. But if I break a law and let's assume I have to pay hefty fees or fines, my company might be shut down. And if that happens, that hurts all my employees, not just the 10 or 20 or 50 who've been kidnapped. That's an example of utilitarian approach. Or another way of looking at utilitarian approach is if you think, well, what's to say that these people will not keep kidnapping my employees every year, because once I give them the money, now they think they can kidnap people and ask for more money. I am in essence making the rest of my employees victims as well. So I may need to sacrifice these people in order to save the other employees that I have. That's an example of utilitarian approach or utilitarian way of making a decision. In an individual approach, the CEO might say, you know, I really wouldn't be able to live with myself if I let these people die because I did not pay the ransom. In an individual approach, you're looking at what would be good for me. And what is good for me is to not let these people die because that will weigh on my conscience. And so I'm going to pay the ransom. That's an example of individual approach. A moral rights approach is guided by respect for fundamental rights of human beings. So someone who says, well, you know, these people have a right to live as much as I do, as much as any of my other employees, that would be a moral rights approach. A lot of time, moral rights approach is also guided by the religious framework of the culture or the society that the individual is from or living in. And so the individual might say, well, you know, according to my religion, every human life, each and every life is important, just as important as another. So even if I'm breaking the law, I will be paying this ransom because for me, it's morally right to, these people have the right to live and I should be protecting that right. That's a way of making a decision based on moral rights approach. This justice approach is slightly different angle. The justice approach is guided by respect for impartial standards of fairness and equity. The justice approach looks at what would be the most fair thing to do in any situation. So, for example, and you will learn this about me as the semester goes, I really love sci-fi. And one of the shows that I enjoy watching is Star Trek. And on one of the episodes that I just watched a few days ago, it actually shows an ethical dilemma where an individual is trying to make a decision based on fairness or justice approach. The captain of a ship, spaceship, is approached by an individual who wants to get an asylum, um, because they want to escape a really bad social structure. And the representative of that society approaches the captain too and says, if you give asylum to this person, it will change our society in irrevocable ways. And the captain now has to decide, should I decide in favor of giving the asylum to this person, or should I deny asylum so that the society does not disintegrate? What is fair for every party, or what is fair for each person involved? That's a justice approach. Again, I'm stressing, no one approach is necessarily the right approach. These are different ways of making decisions. What was the need to come up with ethical education in business school? Well, some of the big scandals in the last 2 decades that happened. The Enron scandal and initiated Sarbanes-Oxley, the bill being passed in 2002. A lot of insider trading. So those of you remember Martha Stewart when she was sent to prison, or Sam Wasco, who was sent for 87 months in prison. These were cases of insider trading that really shook up the SEC, that shook up the business world. And so all these scandals in the last few years actually instigated and initiated a very deep look from the business schools into, what are we teaching the next generation of managers? What really are we teaching people? So those of you who are interested, there are a couple of shows that you could watch to help you better get an understanding. One of them is the movie documentary made on Enron. It's called Enron, the Smartest Guys in the Room. There's also another series of documentaries. It's called American Greed. So when you get a chance, and if you would like to, go ahead and find these documentaries and do watch them. And send me an email about your thoughts once you've seen these documentaries. So moving on, the first part of ethical decision making is for a manager to understand that it's important for them to be ethical. But the second part is for a manager to make sure they're not the only one who's ethical, their employees are as well. Right? So how can you as a manager ensure that your employees and your organizations are ethical? Book gives you a number of ideas, but the one that I really want to stress on is culture. Culture comes top down in any organization. If you look at it carefully, it's all about exemplary leadership. We all look at our bosses to figure out how we're supposed to behave. We look at how our boss behaves, how our boss's boss behaves. That gives us a clue into how we are supposed to behave. And so as a manager, as a boss, if you are not ethical, or if you are giving subliminal hints are hidden messages or hidden hints that you're giving without saying them outright to your employees. So let's take the example Wells Fargo. What happened in Wells Fargo, and those of you who are unfamiliar, look up Wells Fargo and the scandal of fraudulent accounts and read that. So if any video of mine that you're watching, when I give you ideas and things to do, feel free to, and I would strongly encourage you to do that. Pause the video, go look up what I'm talking to you about. It will give you a better idea and understanding of whatever I proceed to explain. So Wells Fargo scandal, where hundreds and thousands of fraudulent accounts were made under customers' names by employees of Wells Fargo, and not just in one branch, across the nation. How could that have happened unless there was a culture of lack of following legal standards, lack of ethics? How does it start? It starts with a manager from the top down telling junior managers, we need to make our numbers. I don't care how you make them. I don't need to know that. We need to make our sales numbers this month or this year. Instead of doing that, try looking at, are we making Are we setting up unrealistic standards for our employees to reach? Or are we setting standards for employees to reach without giving them proper training or tools? So it's really important to understand how you are sending your messages. And it's also really important to set an example for your employees so that they know that they have to be not just following the law, but they also have to be ethical. And the ethics leads to another concept, the concept of social responsibility. The concept of social responsibility, what does it really look at? Social responsibility is a manager's duty to take actions that will benefit the interest of the society. Corporate social responsibility takes it a step further. Corporate social responsibility is the notion that corporations are expected to go above and beyond following the law. So till about 2 decades ago, businesses thought that all they needed to do was make money, maybe follow the law. That's not enough anymore. Right? Archie Carroll's global corporate social responsibility pyramid and Buchholz and Carroll's pyramid gives a very clear expectation for managers. Till about a few years ago, all that was really important for managers, or so managers thought, was for them to follow the very top right here, the very basic, very basic here, economic responsibility at the very bottom. And that's what the managers thought, that's all they had to do. Let me get a pointer so I can show you. Right here. Managers and society thought, well, that's all a business needs to do, make money, that's it, we don't care how. That's not enough. In this day and age, we are challenging, and we as a society are asking managers to be right here on the top of this pyramid. If you are a company and you're making money and you are following the law and that's all you're doing, you get a grade of D or a D minus. That's a basic responsibility of a company. Basic, very basic. It's like getting a grade in a classroom. You're doing the bare minimum. Companies need to go above and beyond that and move from here to ethics. Right? So ethics are all about going a little bit above the law. Most societies' legal system is sometimes a few years or a decade or two behind the ethical development of a country, especially in a democracy like ours, because in a democratic system, it takes a long while for anything to become a law. And so it's really important for companies to understand we don't have to wait for something to become law for us to be ethical. So a small example I will give you is that there is no federal protection under Title VII for sexual orientation right now. However, a number of companies decided that they are going to make it a policy that they will not discriminate against someone based on their sexual orientation. The same way, there is no federal law in the US that requires or mandates paid maternity leave or maternity leave of any kind for organizations. The only thing organizations have to do is Family Medical Leave Act, which is different from maternity leave. So a lot of organizations have decided on their own that they are going to give anywhere from 6 to 28 weeks of paid maternity leave, which doesn't even compare to what some of the other countries are doing. There are countries in Europe and Asia that are giving 52 weeks of paid maternity leave and about 37 or 40 weeks of paid paternity leave. So some kind of paid parental leave is being given in other countries. So a lot of organizations in the US decided, you know what, it's ethically responsible of us to do that for our employees. And it also makes good business decision, which comes to the point, does any of this hype about corporate social responsibility really help the bottom line? The simple answer is yes, it does. Till about a few years ago, people thought, no, if you are being ethical or if you're being philanthropic, I haven't gotten to explaining philanthropy. Philanthropic is doing what is desired, going above and beyond, being a good citizen, volunteering as an organization, donating money, opening up special programs that help the community. Does any of this stuff help your bottom line? Well, we've seen over the years, and research has actually corroborated this, that there are financial gains of being a good corporate citizen. And the reason is because in today's society, in today's date, in the 21st century corporate world, consumers are asking for a socially responsible organization. They want companies that are not just following the law, but that are also looking out for the community and the planet. They're thinking, am I reusing my resources? Am I recycling? Am I polluting the environment? Should I be doing these things? Every action is being looked at and analyzed from a socially responsible angle. So how do we as consumers, or how do we as a society ensure that the company is doing what it's supposed to do? The way to do that is by engaging in corporate governance. Corporate governance is when there is a body that governs or oversees or holds the CEO and his or her top management team accountable. And who does that is the board of directors. The board of directors are representatives of the shareholders. They can be elected or voted in or nominated, preferably voted in and elected. It's really important for these board of directors to be really independent. There's a need for doing that because you don't want a CEO to appoint his or her friends on the board. Well, the friends, there's a conflict of interest right there. How can you be sure that these directors are actually looking out for your interest and not the CEO's interest? So there's really clear need and high need for trust in the board of directors, which is why they need to be independent of the CEO or the top management team, and independent from the company and each other. So this is the end of chapter 3 on social responsibility and ethical responsibilities. Till next time, I'm going to bid you adieu. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to me, send me an email, or if it is a general question, post it on Blackboard's Ask the Professor discussion board. I will stress this again. Give me about 24 to 48 hours, sometimes more if it's a weekend, to respond to Blackboard discussion. But the Blackboard discussion is open for all the students. So if I'm not able to get to the student and respond to them on the Blackboard discussion, and another student has an answer, go ahead and post it. But if you have a personal question or a question about something specific to your case, just send me an email and I will respond. So till next time, till next video, have a good day and have a good week as well.